Wednesday the 25th of November 2009. This is the Lancastrian Suite in Gateshead. This is the Black and White Reunion 3, the centre forwards.
If you're right, you're wrong, only free. If you sing their songs, and I know they wait to wear ahead, and they regulate if I laugh at jokes around work, that my job's on hold, and they fight so hard to be free. But if you smoke your bar, so I'm out here standing in the, I'm out here standing in the, I'm out here smoking in the rain.
Alan, NSPCC, you've been a supporter of it for a long time. Why the NSPCC and what's your involvement with it?
Well, I was introduced to it many years ago, and certainly when I had a little bit more hair anyway, and I've got 3 kids of my own. I realise how very important they are, how special they are. My kids are very, very lucky. Not everyone's kids are as lucky as my kids are, and I think it's important that I give something back. Our aim is to stop cruelty to children, 100%. Whether we can achieve that or not remains to be seen, but we're going to work damn hard to try and get there.
Newcastle United, a lot of happy memories for me. More happy memories for you, though. You came back home, you did it all. Give us your special memories about that time.
I think everything. It was always my dream to put on the black and white shirt, and I stood on the Gallagher end like thousands and thousands of kids have done over the years, and will continue to do. And it's their dream as well to play at St James's. And I was lucky when I had my dream, and that was every single weekend. I was lucky enough to play and also captain them. So I had a fantastic time.
Number 9 shirt, that's what it's all about tonight at the event. A lot of people up on the top table who were privileged enough to wear it, not as long as you, but what did the number 9 shirt you mean when you pulled it on for the first time?
Brilliant. It was, as I said, it was. I wanted to wear the number 9 shirt because I know how special it is to the supporters. I know what pressure it brings also, but I wanted that, and there's a demand for it, and you have to score goals when you wear that shirt. Thankfully, I did that.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 3rd Black and White Reunion. A very, very special night tonight to pay tribute to all the people that have warmed our hearts throughout the years. The fabulous number 9 shirt, legendary at Newcastle United, a shirt that we adore. People that scored goals for us. Tonight's totally about those guys, and it's a privilege to be here, and it's great to see so many people come to support the thing. Although, if it's about Newcastle United and it's about number 9s, there's a good chance there'll be a hell of a turnout. If I may introduce the guests to you that's with us, and first of all, although it's a number 9 tribute night, like anybody else, you've got to have service from elsewhere for the number 9s to do the business. And we've got a few faces in the audience tonight. I would just like to stand up and take a collective round of applause for what they did for Newcastle United. We have with us Jim Pearson, Dave Hilly, Billy Askew and John Cowan. If you could stand up and take a round of applause, boys. Cheers, lads. Thank you. And although this is a Newcastle United number 9 night, we've got a very special guest with us who is from outside of football, perhaps the biggest celeb fan of Newcastle United. Forget about Anton Deck and all those posers. We've got a real fella here tonight who is a huge Newcastle United supporter and a legend himself in North East sport. Twice an Ashes winner with England against Aussie, which is incredible. Twice county championship when they were down the last 2 years. What a fairy story that was. Coming 16 years from first-class cricket entry to actually winning the championship successive seasons and going next season for the hat-trick. 63 tests, 226 wickets. And that memorable day, I think we all remember, out in the West Indies, when he took 7 wickets for only 12 runs, was one of the greatest displays of pace bowling we'd ever seen. The big Newcastle United fan, a legend in his own sport. Please put your hands together, Steve Harmison. Well done, fella. Right, if I can introduce you to number 9s that we have sitting up here on the top table and bring back a few memories, no doubt, as we go through them. This guy made 31 appearances, scoring 7 goals, a barn door of a centre forward. The hardest man, I guess, that ever wore strip, not at Newcastle United, at any bloody where. He also played for Hull City, Oxford United, and because of his courage, went down to Sunderland to help them out when they needed him. Please put your hands together, Billy Whitehurst. Well done, Bill. With us too, a man that played 132 games for Newcastle, scored 46 goals. He was part of the Second Division Championship side of 1965, the Joe Harvey side, when he was centre forward with us. Have goals will travel, he always said, and he was always willing to do that. A comedian, a good footballer, a very good goal scorer, Ron McGarry. With us too, a local lad that did what all local lads want to do, and that's go and play centre forward for Newcastle United. Played 70 matches, scored 20 goals, which is a very good record, part of the League Cup squad of 1976, played for England boys. He was the guy that followed Supermac into the Newcastle United team. Put your hands together, Paul Canal. And if being a local lad that goes and plays for Newcastle United is something special, then being a pitman that comes out the pits and goes straight to Newcastle United is a bit extra special. This guy played 106 games for Newcastle and scored 38 goals. As I say, he was part of the Blythe Spartans side that had that fabulous FA Cup run that was absolutely memorable and ended up at St James's Park. A pitman, he come and signed for Newcastle United, little and large with him and Peter With. He was North East Sports Personality of the Year 1979. And he got that because he scored 21 goals in that season, including 9 penalties, which is still a club record, 9 penalties in one season. Put your hands together, Alan Shoulder. That's another little enlarged situation with Big Billy and him, so they'll be all right tonight, those 2 boys. With us too, a man that had a special time up here, 90 appearances, 42 goals, again, a very, very good average. The man that partnered Kevin Keegan when Kevin Keegan first come up here to play, went on and he played with Sheffield Wednesday, West Brom, Leeds United, but we remember him as the Quicksilver centre forward at Newcastle United, Ray Varadi. We come now, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2 major guests of the number 9 legends tonight that we're honouring. Supermac, as you know, he is on the Legends show at the moment, doing it on television, on radio, so he finishes at 8 o'clock, coming straight down here from the studios to join us. He will be with us very, very shortly. And the other guy, well, needs no introduction from me, no introduction from anyone, but just look at the figures. 258 games, 395 plus 9 as a sub. Undoing the guy there, because I was concentrating on the most wonderful figure of the lot, which is 206 goals. The Newcastle United record, taken from another fabulous, fabulous centre forward, Ward Jackie. 2 Wembley FA Cup finals when the man did terrific to get us there. Both semi-finals scored the goals that took us through. Was the last bit of the jigsaw of the entertainers, a Champions League performer. 63 caps for England, many, many, many of them as captain. 30 goals, a man who was an absolute hero and star and will always be so up here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alan Shearer. Yeah, definitely deserves that and a bit more. Absolute legend amongst legends. As I say, Super Mac will be joining us shortly. We'll be talking to you again after dinner. But in the meantime, if I could hand you over to Mr. Danny Mitchell, who is the compere from the night. Danny Mitchell of the NSPCC. Danny.
Thanks very much, John. How would you follow that? Top table. Fantastic. Thanks very much for coming here tonight. Black and White Reunion Part 3, the biggest and the best one yet. I'm sure you're all going to have a fantastic night. First of all, personally, thank you to the top table for putting your time out to come here and help a very worthwhile cause in the NSPCC. The money will be kept up here in the North East. Thanks also to Coastline Glass, our sponsors. Again, the event wouldn't have happened without a sponsor. And in the times of a recession, it's more and more difficult to get people to support. So it's been immense that you've supported again. So thank you very much. Round of applause for that one, I think. And thanks very much to Steve Wraith and Players Inc. Event Management. Steve doesn't really seek any praise, you know. He just puts these events on, and what I was saying the other day, we're due a good one because we've had lots where you sort of pull your hair out, think this is going to be good, and things go wrong, but everything's come together for this one, but it's all to the credit of Steve and his hard work and pizzazz events. So round of applause for them, please. You've also been entertained in the VIP lounge by Paul Martin, Mr. Success. He helps us out all the time, so there he is. Can you stand up, Paul? Don't be shy, come on. And I'm sure if you speak to Paul, he'll tell you that he's got a Christmas single coming out and he wants you to text his number and go on and make it to #1 to beat the X Factor. So well done, Paul. Aye. So there you go. I also want to thank all my volunteers for tonight. You know, they've just come and they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart. So thank you very much to all the volunteers from Orange UK. That's brilliant. Now, again, your team captain, hopefully you've all nominated your team captain now. Now, what this is all about is your team captain, what we would like you to do for our table game is to do the easy bit. Now, that is just to collect £10 off each person. What? £10 off each person in your table to put in the envelope to be collected by the volunteers. Now, what that does, it'll enter you all into 2 games. First one, heads and tails. Second one, into a draw. You'll see in front of you also something that says name, table number, email address. You need to fill that in completely. The volunteers will collect that in, and we've got some fantastic prizes for that. So if you can just do that in the next few minutes, that'll be fantastic. How many times can I say fantastic in a night? Never mind. Does everybody know how to play heads and tails anyway? Does anybody not know how to play heads and tails? All right, one. There's always one. Basically, for heads and tails, what we'll be doing is we'll be saying to you, is it going to be heads? Is it going to be tails? We will toss a coin. If it lands on a head and you've got your hands on your head, you're still in. If you've got your hands on your tails, it's going to be out. And then we'll go until we end up with the last person, and they're the winner. Also tonight, you'll notice in the foyer, we've got the silent auction. Now, how that works is if you see something that you like, you can bid on it. You can come back if you've been outbid, and you can bid on it again. We'll be closing that silent auction probably either just before the main auction or after the main auction, depends how things are going. You've all been buying raffle tickets for £2 a strip. There's some fantastic prizes there again. If you want more raffle tickets when the volunteers are going around, please feel free to just ask them for some. We'll be closing that probably after dinner and drawing it later on. Just a little bit of information, and it's about NSPCC. Now, a lot of people think NSPCC is just in London and all the money goes to London and there's nothing in the northeast. But I'm not sure that anybody actually knows that basically 5 miles from here, we have a children's therapeutic service that helps children and young people who suffer neglect and abuse. Now, what we're planning to do with the funds from tonight is to go directly to that service in Newcastle, helping local children who haven't had the best of times. In fact, they've probably had the worst of times. So what I want to ask you is, please dig very, very deep tonight. We've tried to credit crunch the prices on the tickets. We've tried to make the photographs for free, but we're hoping that you'll give generously for everything. So please, team captains, twist the arms of your tables because it'll make a massive difference. We also have the Childline service, which receives 2.3 million calls a year, which we can only answer 66% of calls. 2.3 million children phone Childline. So please, 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 if you're going to walk out the door tonight with any change in your pocket, please just put it in a bucket. You can pay by cash, cheque, credit card, or you can be invoiced for any items that you may want to buy. The perk for you captains, by the way, and I forgot to say this, is that last year, Alan allowed us to produce 206 champagne bottles, specially designed for Alan's career at Newcastle United. So we've got limited edition of 206. Each bottle is numbered with a certificate of authenticity with Alan's career record on the back for Newcastle. It's all personally signed. And the captain, we've got bottle number 1, which was one of our special numbers, obviously, because it was his first goal. Let me tell you that Alan owns number 9. Number 206 went on the first night last year for £1,500. Number 201 went for £1,400. So captains, you're all going to be entered into a free draw. So all I want to say now is have a good night, dig deep, and let's raise lots of funds for NSPCC Childline. Thanks very much.
Let's raise a roof and do it for all our children, unless you want them all to be their angels. Let's raise a roof for our next generation. I'm sick of standing in the fucking smoking in the rain. So pain that tolls I can't save, and my funds control, and they make a scene. It's for our good and our own safety and our life.
Special thanks to Ronnie Lambert. Last year, he was on his sick bed. He came and performed at the Black and White reunion for the NSPCC last year. For me, he came and did it. Sadly, he's not with us anymore. Let's have a round of applause for Ronnie Lambert, eh? I'm going to hand you over to Danny Mitchell now. Thanks very much for supporting the event. It's been fantastic.
Cheers, Steve. Right, we're going to come to the awards part of the night now. 2 inductees into the Hall of Fame. So, firstly, we'd like to induct Malcolm MacDonald into the Players Inc. Hall of Fame. Malcolm, could you stand up, please? Congratulations. Secondly, our second inductee into the Hall of Fame. Could Steve Hormson please present Alan Shearer? Well done, lads. Well done, Alan. Thank you very much. The third award, which he wasn't expecting at all, but he put so much hard work in. I mentioned him earlier. Steve Wraith, I have known for, 4 or 5 years now. This is a culmination of a lot of years, and a lot of you don't know that Steve's helped me raise for the NSPCC probably in excess of £20,000 over the last few years. So how many lives has that saved? How many phone calls has that? So Steve, from the NSPCC and all the children you've saved, thanks very much, pal. Right, I'll just hand you over to John Gibson now for the talking.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you again, sitting here between two Hall of Famers. That can't be bad, can it? Two of the greatest centre forwards we've ever had. Goals between them, 206, as you know, for Alan, club record, 138 for Supermac. So if we want to nail it down to one goal from you, Alan, and one from Supermac, that's your favourite. Which one yours? Might it be Everton at the Gallagher Den?
No, I wouldn't. I think that was probably my best one, but my favourite one would have been my first one, because it was like everyone else is lad that's born in Newcastle. It's their dream to play for Newcastle. It was my dream, and I scored on my debut at St James's Park. So that was my favourite one, but my best one would have been the Everton volley. Yeah.
And what about, if we're going for the first one, what about the one that gave you the record?
Yeah, that was just an incredible feeling. I mean, to equal it was sent a shiver down my spine. But that feeling when I scored at the Gallagher end to break the record was just something that will live with me for the rest of my life. And I can't tell you the feeling, to be honest, John. It was just a magnificent feeling. I never ever thought I'd get there.
I was going to say, you'd said to me many times a couple of seasons before, and you're saying, what about Jackie Milburn's record? And you're saying, no, it's too far away. I won't get that. Well, and you meant that, didn't you?
No, I did, because I'd set it in my mind that I was going to retire a year earlier than I actually did. And Graham Souness and Freddie Shepherd talked me around to do another year, and without that other year, I wouldn't have done that. But I didn't stay on to break the record. I stayed on because I thought I could still continue playing at the highest level. But now, as I said, the feeling was just an incredible one. And standing there with my arms in the air and knowing that I eventually broke the record was, because it took a long time in coming. I hadn't scored for a few games as well, which was a bit of a relief. Yeah.
And against the record of a legend, I mean, Ward Jackie, another local guy that had the record, taking it from somebody like him has got to be special. And you had Laura there, didn't you? His widow.
Yeah, that was something special for me as well, because the longer it gone on, then the harder it was becoming, and the support I was actually getting from Jackie's family gave me great hope as well. I mean, when I'd met his widow, she was saying to me, "Go on and do it." She genuinely wanted me to go on and break the record, and that meant a lot to me as well, because me having got the record now, I would being selfish as us goal scorers are, then I would like it to stand for a while. But if you give me a choice of who I would like to break it, I would love a local lad to come in and break it one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Malcolm, best goal, mate. You scored a light few. I mean, just thinking off the top of the head, Malcolm, a hat-trick against Liverpool on your home debut with Keegan and all those boys on the Liverpool side, the Anfield Iron, and then two in the semi-final against Burnley at Hillsborough. But I don't think they're the goals that you're going to have as your favourite, is it?
No, probably not. But I have to say, I have to thank Kevin Keegan for my first ever goal for Newcastle.
You do. I remember now.
It was him that tripped up David Young to give a penalty away when Liverpool were leading 1-0.
What was he doing back in their penalty area, Kelly?
Well, whatever he was doing, he wasn't doing it very well. Because he gave a penalty away, tripped David Young, and I scored from the resulting penalty. The one that followed that day wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. That put us in the lead at 2-1. And it was my first real feeling of a responsive Geordie crowd at St James's Park, and it was quite an experience, I have to say. You have to remember, I was a lad who had just signed from Luton Town. Our biggest gate was about 12,500, and they didn't make too much noise there. So when it was 47,000 at St James's Park, and they really appreciated goals, as you all know, it was quite a contrast to what I've been used to at Kenilworth Road. But what amazed me was that the hit musical in London at the time was Jesus Christ Superstar. And the goal had been scored. Everybody was cheering, but then all the players were running back to restart the game, and all of a sudden it was as if song sheets had been handed out before the game. And everybody started singing Supermax Superstar, how many goals have you scored so far? And I thought, hey, it's not only a great football crowd, but by heavens, they've got a humour as well. And I've been appreciating it ever since, I have to say. But to answer your question, John.
I was hoping you were going to do that.
Yeah, I can go on a bit, can't I?
I thought there's no danger he's ever going to get round answering this, is there? Go on.
But one that wasn't televised, Leicester City. And it was at St James's Park. Leicester had a corner. Somebody knocked it out, and Irving Natris broke out of the area and started running up the inside right. And I'd been watching the fella on the near post, and I just went herring after him through the centre of the pitch. And Irving, he was a defender, a great defender, who, when he crossed the halfway line, pooed his pants, literally. He wasn't the bravest in wanting to get into the opponent's half. And having crossed the halfway line, he literally just knocked it square, blindly. And I was coming up, and I and the ball met absolutely perfectly. It was right into my stride, and I just hit it from the centre circle with my left foot. And it flew into the top corner. And, whoa, I tell you, it was the feeling I got from that strike. It was one in a lifetime. Never, ever hit another one like it. You had to be there to appreciate it. But it was a wonderful feeling. Thank you.
The amazing thing was, Malcolm, these days, if you score a goal, it's there for posterity because match of the day, it's there, it's recorded. Television weren't there that much. I don't think there's any record on celluloid of that goal at all, is there?
No. In trying to just put sort of memorabilia together, I've got so little actually on film because I think Tyne Tees Television did about one game in 8 at St James's Park, and we very rarely got other companies coming.
So you're lying. You never really scored that many goals anyway, did you?
And by the way, because there's no cameras there, he ran from his own goal line to score the goal.
Every goal he scored was from 35 yards, you know.
Right. Cheeky bugger. Right, managers. Let's look on the positive side of them to start with. I mean, you were signed by KK is the last piece of the entertainers. Unfortunately, he went very quickly after that, which was a great sadness. And then you had Bobby Robson, of course. Can we talk about those two?
I come to Newcastle and we play in the Charity Shield and we get stuffed 4-0.
Oh, that's right.
We go to the second game, we go to Goodison Park, we get beat 2-0, and I thought, Jesus Christ, what the hell have I done coming to Newcastle? But it got slightly better after that, and it was a shame that we only got the chance to work with Kevin for 5 or 6 months. Of course, he left in the January, so soon after that, for his own reasons. And then, well, I think probably the best, without a doubt, the best one for me was Sir Bobby, because he came in and he saved my career at Newcastle.
I remember talking to Bobby because I'd known him from way back when he was with England and because he was from up here. And one of the first things he said to me, sort of when he come up, he said, I've got to get Alan going again. He's key for me, and it hasn't been happening for him. And I think did you get together privately at Chelsea and have a talk in the hotel room?
Yeah, I mean, he knew my game because before I signed for Newcastle, he tried to sign me for Barcelona. That's right. So he knew my game, and he knew what I was good at, and he knew what I wasn't so good at. And the first thing he said to me when he came in was, "I want you running towards goal instead of actually playing with your back to goal all the time," which is what I'd got into a bad habit of doing. And the previous manager, for whatever reason, couldn't work that out. And so Bobby seen it straight away, and of course, in his first game, I scored 5 and scored many, many more for him, and we had a tremendous relationship.
I was going to say, his home game here, 8-0, Sheffield Wednesday, you get 5. Little Defoe tried to nick that off you with a 6-1 the other day. Not a cat in hell's chance. But I mean, that was a special homecoming, wasn't it? Is it right that the kid Robinson tried to nick the penalty off you in that 5-goal thing?
He tried, yeah. It was no way he's going to get it, but he did try, bless him.
I tell you what, he must have had a bit of courage to do that, silly bugger.
He just wasn't. No, he wasn't the cleverest. I think he's from Darlington, which sums it up anyway. But excuse anyone from Darlington.
He was also a Sunderland fan, I think.
You got to give him full marks for trying. But to actually come back and then in the first home game for Sir Bobby, because I'd really been struggling. I mean, if we had won that Sunderland game where Ruud had left me out, then I would have had to have left. There was absolutely no doubt about that. So I think that was the best result in the club's history for me. I don't know about anyone else. I'll never say that about getting beat off Sunderland again.
I know. But yes, there was something in it. Good managers for you, the obvious, at Newcastle I'm talking about at this stage, Malcolm, the obvious one, I guess, is the guy that signed you and become a father figure to you, Joe Harvey.
Yeah, Joe Harvey. A wonderful man. He had this great way of just boosting confidence just by his presence and his manner in a dressing room. He was no great tactician or anything like that, but he knew people, he understood people, and he knew his players best of all. And he would always find a way to get the very best out of you. And I just loved the fella. I really did, all the time. And I never had a crossword with him. I never had to really go and sort of talk contracts with him. He would always get in there first, and if you did it for him, he looks after you. And bless him, I should never forget, I hadn't been there very, very long. And he came into the dressing room as we were getting changed after training. And he said, and he came and he stood right in front of me and sort of rocked back and forth on his heels, with his hands in his pockets in a typical Joe Harvey stance. And he said, "Well, Mal, I have just signed the man who is going to make the bullets for you to fire." It's a wonderful line, isn't it? So descriptive. And in the dressing room, we were all agog, and we said, "Oh, who is it? Who is it? Who have you signed?" And he started walking towards the door, and he said, "I have signed Terry Hibbett from Leeds United for a paltry £30,000. Got to the door, opened it, was about to walk out, and then looked over his shoulder and said, "Mind, it caused trouble in an empty house."
That was Hibby and all.
And that was Hibby. But I have to say, he was a wonderful footballer and a great provider to me, particularly. And bless him, he's no longer with us, but I certainly do thank him, because every goal scorer needs people to provide the ball at the right time, at the right place for them. And Hibby certainly did that for me.
Yeah. Having mentioned 3 of the greatest Newcastle United managers ever in that conversation with Keegan and Sir Bobby and Joe Harvey, the last one to win a domestic trophy, if we look towards the worst manager Newcastle United have had, now, behave yourselves. No, Ashley isn't the manager. He would like to be, but he isn't the manager, so be careful here. The worst manager, I'm just going to have a total shot in the dark with Alan because I wouldn't have any clue at all, but I would throw Ruud Gullit and say, well...
I don't think it takes a genius to work that one out. Funny enough, I'd never ever seen or spoke to Ruud Gullit since the day he left me out against Sunderland. And no, I'm just. And what happened? Like I was in London last night working on TV for Al Jazeera TV, and there was Gary Lineker presenting. There was myself, Terry Venables, and Ruud Gullit. Believe it or not. And it's the first time I'd seen him since he'd left me out against Sunderland that night. So I'm thinking, do I play the diplomatic one? Do I tell him where to go? I thought, no, life's too short. You've got to be a little bit bigger than that. And Gary had said to me, he'd tipped me off before, and he said, but bearing in mind we're live on TV in front of millions of people, Gary had said, I'm just going to have a bit of a laugh to try and break the ice. And so he introduced us, Alan Shearer, Terry Venables, Ruud Hullet, and he looked at me and Ruud and he said, don't you two know each other from somewhere? And he said to Ruud, didn't you used to manage him? And before he said, I said, no, he coached me, he didn't manage me, that was his problem. So anyway, off air, we're watching the live game Liverpool last night, and Ruud was asking Terry and Gary about their time at Barcelona under Johan Cruyff. And Gary was saying, well, Johan Cruyff didn't fancy me, he was playing me on the right-hand side, and he was just doing it to upset me, to try and sell me.
Yeah.
And I looked at Ruud and I said, yeah, I know how he feels. So it's... I think it wasn't put to bed last night, but it was there was one or two things said which were interesting. But I said to him last night, and I'll say it to everyone now. I've got nothing to hide. I think the higher you go in football, then the more important, particularly in management, I believe, the higher you go in football, the more important man management is. Ruud was actually a very, very good coach. But his man management skills, in my opinion, were so poor, because he came in and because he was such a big name and a big player himself, that he wanted to be the big guy. He wanted to be the star. And as a manager, you can't do that. You do that by getting results and then getting respect. And he came in and he wanted to get rid of me. He got rid of Rob Lee, he got rid of John Barnes, he got rid of Stuart Pearce, he got rid of Nikos Dabizas. And all those players had too much to give at that time for them to have left Newcastle. And the only player he couldn't get rid of at the time, obviously, was myself. And he took the gamble and left me out of Sunderland, and it failed. And as I said, if we had won that game, I would have gone. Because we lost, then he went. But he was a good coach.
I think that when I saw that team sheet, I don't know about you lads, but when I went to the game, the team sheet come out, half an hour before the game, and you looked at the team sheet, and there was no Alan Shearer on it, and there was no Duncan Ferguson on, and I thought, this is a bloody suicide note, the team sheet is a suicide note against Sunderland. We played at home against Sunderland, we played one guy, if you remember, up front, kid called Robinson, up front on his own at home, while you've got Shearer and Ferguson on the bench. And I read the programme when I come, this kid Robinson, I read the programme, there was a piece in by him, in which he revealed that he was actually a Sunderland fan, and if he scored against them, he would cry. I thought, we are going to rip the backside out of this team tonight. No danger here. Can you believe that?
I think one of the hardest things for me was, I think as a player, you never ever want to be left out of a starting lineup. But if you're going to be left out, then you want to be sat down and told face to face. I think and I wasn't. No, I was actually. I found out by I went into the dressing room, and the team was on the team sheet as everyone walked in after the pre-match, and for me that said a lot about his man management. And I think in the 8 weeks that I was manager, which we'll talk about later, whenever I left players out, I thought it was common courtesy and decency and respect to get someone in the office either the day before or the morning of the game and tell them, look, I'm telling you face to face, you're not actually in the team. And I had to do that to a very good friend of mine. I had to do it to Michael Owen and say, look, Michael, who was one of the greatest goal scorers in the Premier League history, I'm actually going to leave you out today. And although he didn't like it at the time, he actually appreciated me sitting him down and telling him. And that's the one thing that hurt me with Ruud. He didn't have the decency to sit me down and tell me. I had to read it on the board in front of everyone else.
Which is bad crap. I think he was terrified to tell Duncan Ferguson, wasn't he?
Well, we lost the we lost the game that night, and we got home and I watched the football on TV and watched his interview, and myself and Big Dunk actually got the blame for the.
I was going to say, I was at the press conference and I said, "What about leaving the two boys out?" He said, "Well, we're 1-0 up or something." And when you brought the two boys on, we lost 2-1. He said. I thought,
well, all right, well, I'll have my say in the morning. I thought I'll get in early, first thing in the morning. I'll go and give him what for in his office. So I took the kids in half an hour early to school. And I got into the training ground for 8:15. And I thought I'll go and bang his door now. And I got in there, little did I know Big Duncan had been in half an hour before me. So
door off its hinges. Door for Singers. Before I come to you, Malcolm, is I want to have a 10-minute drink with Alan and a bit of a chat. I'll say Gordon Lee and leave the rest to you, and we'll be able to talk for 10 minutes between ourselves. Your favourite manager, Mr. Gordon Lee, who took you to the 1976 League Cup final. I don't want you to forget about that. Mr. Gordon Lee, what do you think?
After they sacked Joe Harvey, it had been agreed that I could go out to South Africa and play through the summer. I didn't like long layoffs. I needed to keep playing. So I went over to South Africa and I was playing for a club called Lusitano over there. And I was one afternoon in my hotel room in Johannesburg, and the phone rang, and at the other end was a gentleman who worked for the Evening Chronicle by the name of John Gibson.
Quite right, never heard of him. What's he got to do with it?
And I said, hello, John, what's going on? He said, they've appointed the new manager. I said, oh, go on, tell me. He said, I'll give you 3 guesses. I said, Brian Clough. He said, no, second guess. I said, Bobby Robson. He said, you're wrong again. Last chance. I said, please don't tell me they've appointed Jackie Charlton. He said, no, not him. I said, I give up. He said, they've appointed Gordon Lee. I said, Gordon, who? I'd never heard of him. The big headline in huge black capital letters in the following day's Evening Chronicle read, Gordon who? ? Says Super Mac from South Africa.
There's nothing like accurate reporting. I've always said that. You should never misquote anybody. And so I've got the blame for him falling out with Gordon Lee, obviously. But there you go.
So, when I got back from South Africa, before the season started, I thought I'd go in and just make myself known, welcome him to the club. And so I've parked my car, gone up the steps, and at the main entrance, the glass doors were opening, and somebody was coming out whose face I had seen in the journal that morning. And I recognised it as the coach brought in by Gordon Lee. So, and I thought back to what his name was that I'd read in the paper. And I went up to him, hand outstretched, shook him by the hand, and I said, hello, Dennis. I thought his name was Dennis Richards. It turned out, of course, it was Richard Dennis, so I didn't exactly get off to the best of starts. And I went in and found Gordon Lee in his office, and I said, Malcolm McDonald, I've come in to just welcome you to the club, and I hope everything goes well. And he said, sit down, I hear Terry Hibbett's a troublemaker, tell me about him. Oh, I went, whoa, I'm not getting involved. And off I went. And it didn't really get any better from there as time went on. But there was one particular time after training, Gordon Lee walked into the dressing room and he said, as we were all getting changed, he said, is Aidan McCaffrey Irish? Now, Aidan McCaffrey at the time was 18 years of age playing centre-half for the reserves. And we've all looked around in the dressing room. We've said, no, he's not Irish, no. No, he's a Geordie born and bred. Why do you want to know if he's Irish? He said, I want to nominate him for the Irish international team. I said, he owns his own boots, Gordon. I said, that'll get anybody into the Irish team. Gordon Lee said, are his parents Irish? We've looked around at each other in the dressing room. We said, no, his parents aren't Irish either. So he said, that Geordie's born and bred as well. Gordon Lee said, how dare they not be Irish and have a name like McCaffrey? I said, oh, don't be so stupid, Gordon. I said, my name's Malcolm Ian MacDonald. You can't get a more Scottish name than that, and I play for England. Gordon Lee said, you should not play for England with a name like yours. Tommy Cassidy said, excuse me, boss, but how many times have you played for China? It was the best one-liner I've ever heard in the dressing room, and it completely shut a fool up. And he was an utter fool.
Now, I think you shouldn't really sit on the fence like that. I think you should tell it the way it is, really. Right, good partners. Strikers always hunting twos or so, we're told. And, for can people mix together? Are they going to go well together? Partners, Alan, from your point of view, always remember when you come and it was going to be you and Les, everyone was saying in the national press, can't play together, two target men, blah, blah, blah. Turned out that you scored a pile of goals between you, and you probably saw him as one of, if not the best partner you ever had, I think.
I think at club level, he was definitely the best partner I'd played with. I think they were just sometimes when you go up front with someone, it just clicks, and you know it's going to click. From the first training session, you get on with them. You don't necessarily have to socialise with them. You don't have to be their best mate. No. You just train with them, and you think, yes, he compliments me, and I compliment him, and we just on a football pitch, we got on very, very well. I think the partnership had a bit of everything, had a bit of pace, power. We're both decent in the air, and the system that we played with two wingers in Keith Gillespie and in David Ginola just suited us both down to the ground, and we knew that that balls coming into the box that we would win our fair share, and we honestly could see, standing in the tunnel, that the both of us there, we could honestly see the fear in the other team's eyes, because I think, as I said, I think the partnership had a bit of everything. It international level, it was exactly the same, but it was with my best one was with Teddy Sheringham.
Yeah.
He complemented my game in a very, very different way to what Les did, but both equally effective.
I mean, Les and you, the 5-goal Man United game, must have typified what was all right about the partnership and the whole team at the time.
Well, considering we'd been stuffed 4-0 in the Charity Shield a month or two before that, then it was nice to go one better and get the fifth one. But Les was a great lad and a great player, and it was fantastic playing up front. It really was.
Did you ever take any lessons on finishing from Philip Albert after that game?
Philip should never have been a centre half, should he? Philip was a great footballer. I mean, he was one of the best in the football club, really, with a ball at his feet, and that left foot of his was genius at times. It really was.
I mean, Ginola, for that first season, Alan, when he first come, people really hadn't heard of him. I know Paris Saint-Germain, but he wasn't a worldwide name, and he come. And in that first season, before he tapered off and couldn't go to Barcelona and got a bit of a chip, he was absolutely sensational, wasn't he?
He was unplayable because he could actually come inside on his right foot and he could go down the line on his left foot and be equally as effective doing either. And when a winger can do that, just like Ronaldo could when he was at Man United, you can't stop him. And in his first season or two with Newcastle, he was the best around. I don't think I seen the best of him in the season that I played with him.
No,
because I think he had
was the season before.
He had his titty lip on because he wanted to go to Barcelona and they wouldn't let him go. Yeah,
but he could actually finish as well for a winger. For a winger, he scored some spectacular goals. He was a finisher as well.
To be honest, he had a bit of everything, didn't he? He wasn't bad looking either, was it? To be fair, he could score goals.
And he wasn't exactly ugly either, was he? Yeah. What a swine when you think about it. I mean, what a swine. Hey, best partners, pal. What about, would you be looking, I'm talking Newcastle United in the main. Okay, you can touch on England, but would John Tudor be possibly your best?
Certainly at Newcastle, yes. Yes, without any shadow of a doubt. And John, he was very hard-working and thought about the game a huge amount. And he was a perfect foil for me. Coming in to the top level of football, age 21, John really gave me so much help and talked to me all the while and pushed me here and pulled me there and helped me to come to terms with the game without ever sort of capping what I was really good at, which was using my pace and getting into the area and looking to get shots on goal. And John just kept encouraging me all the while. And it's amazing how many people you will find in football who will try and get you not to shoot. It's incredible. They'll say, well, you could have done this, you could have done that. Whereas I was just forever looking to create a shooting opportunity and look to get a shot on goal. And John would encourage me on that. And he was a bit of a rarity. But I thoroughly enjoyed playing for him. And basically, we would turn in about 45 goals between us in a season. And so that made sure that we weren't going to get relegated.
Yeah.
And then better things come, with the midfield chipping in and defenders as well. But John, we also became pretty firm friends as well. And he still pops over. He lives in Minnesota, bless him. And I think he's now retired over there. So he must have made a few quid. Because we're all working, looking along this table. So good for John over there. And he comes back every Christmas, and I look forward to seeing him for the Newcastle fixtures over Christmas.
One thing I was thinking of, Malcolm, I talked then, people said when Alan arrived at the club, him and Ferdy wouldn't go together because they were too similar, and how wrong can you be? They went together brilliantly. I know you and Alan are from different eras, but if you hadn't been, do you think you could have played alongside Alan Shearer?
Yeah, without any shadow of a doubt. We were very different in as much that Alan didn't have the pace that I had, and therefore worked so. No, but in all honesty, what he did do was work so hard at his first control, that first touch. The way to gauge how good a footballer somebody is to see how far the defender is away from him, where the defender never gets right up tight behind him. You watch the game these days, there are so many forwards where the defender's right up his backside. And that's because he's got no touch, or his touch isn't very good. Defenders used to stand right off Alan because they didn't dare get near him because his control was that good. And I don't think I've seen a touch since Alan's retired quite as good as his in the Premiership. And so Alan had his own way, and the remarkable thing is that he every season he would rack up a whole catalogue of goals, all different types of goals, and he would play often on the left-hand side, so that you turn and you come in on Alan's strongest foot, which is his right, and I would do pretty much the opposite, being left-footed, and look to come in. I think we would have given defences a very difficult time, him on one side, me on the other. And so, yeah, I think we could have played together, certainly.
Absolutely. The only trouble is, by the time Alan come along, he had 10 knees, which doesn't help. But that was the only drawback. England, if I can touch on it, boys. For yourself, 30 goals, 62 caps, captain of England, captain of Newcastle United. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful times. I would think, having been there for every game, Euro 96, I was in Wembley every time, and that atmosphere was phenomenal. You ended up top goal scorer in the tournament. And Terry Venables had shown great, great faith in you coming into the tournament, because it was one of those very, very rare times, Alan, when you were on a dry spell. Your dry spells never lasted, but at that stage, England-wise, you were on a dry spell, weren't you?
It was. I don't think I'd scored prior to the tournament for 12 games, which was
for you.
For England, when you play 12 games for England, you're probably talking 18 months, 2 years.
Yeah.
So to go that long without scoring, but I think what I appreciated most from Terry Venables is that we went to we went to Hong Kong before Euro 96 to play a game over there, and he pulled me to one side before the game, and it gave me incredible confidence to know that a manager would actually come up and say this to me, because he knew I was struggling in front of goal, and for him to come up and say to me, Alan, you will be starting the tournament in Euro 96. You will start the first game, then the rest is up to you. And I just thought that was a magnificent piece of man management. And for him to say that to me just made me feel 7 or 8 foot tall, because I was struggling for confidence. And he just said that to me, and I just thought, how good is that? That is fantastic for him to show that amount of faith in me. And of course, I went into the first game, I scored, and I ended up top goal scorer, which was magnificent. I just thought it was a great piece of management by Terry Venables.
I mean, off the top of my head, looking back at that, and the atmosphere in the stadium was phenomenal every game. I mean, you really had to be there. I don't think television can quite do it justice in terms of you can't hear the sound as much as if you're in the stadium. And the Holland game, in particular, was absolutely.
Well, I think at international level, that's without doubt the best atmosphere that I've ever played in. That Holland game at Wembley when we scored 4. Yeah. But we only actually didn't really know what was going on, because when you're a player in the tournaments, you're actually locked away in hotels.
So you didn't.
You very rarely actually come out of the hotel grounds, and when you do, you're actually on the bus. So you never. But we didn't really appreciate what the atmosphere was like until we actually got into the stadiums to play the games, and it was great to play in. It really was.
Perfect time. England, for yourself, Malcolm, everybody will remember 5 goals against Cyprus. Doesn't matter, monkeys, it was Cyprus. It was 5-0. And your 2 strike partners were Keegan and Shannon, no slouches. 5-0, you get all 5, which was a Wembley record for England at the time. Well, now, ever since. Tell me about that one.
Well, Don Revie was the manager, and I always felt confident under Alf that he was sort of bringing me on. He was nurturing me for bigger and better things. Myself and Mick Shannon, he had selected us both in the under-21s and brought us then into the full England side, and was now and again just putting us in and taking us out of the full side. But then Alf was all of a sudden sacked, and Don Revie was given the job, and he left me out of his first 3 games. And for the 4th game, he included me in the squad. And so I arrived on the Sunday at the team hotel and went in, and by reception was Don Revie and his entourage sat there, and I went in and I said, Malcolm MacDonald, I said, reporting, I said, no injuries from the match yesterday. And Alf was always so warm and welcoming to his players, always so appreciative, the fact that they've just made the effort to be there. And Don Revie was quite the opposite. Without a word of hello or welcome, he said, I don't want you here. I feel that you've been foisted on me by the press because we need goals in the side and we haven't been scoring. He said, so if you don't score on Wednesday night, I'll never pick you again, which I thought was a bit strong, particularly considering that we were playing West Germany in their first game since having won the World Cup final earlier that summer. And so I always try and look for the positive, and there was a good side to it. At least I knew I was playing. I knew early. And so I prepared myself and went out against West Germany. And to be fair to the whole side that night, it was a brilliant, brilliant performance. Colin Bell scored in the first half, and in the second half, I scored, and we beat West Germany 2-0. And I thought, well, we'll have to see now what he does. And for the next game, sure enough, I was picked. And I arrived at the team hotel, and I said, reporting, I said, for duty, no injuries from the game yesterday. And I thought, at least I must get a welcome this time, surely. And he said, the same applies as last time. If you don't score, I'll never pick you again. And I thought, bloody hell. And this time I didn't keep quiet. An old friend, Alan Ball, was the captain on the night. And so I mentioned it to Borley, and he said, we'll do something about that. I told him what had actually happened, and I told him about it, and so Borley, after a team meeting in the afternoon of the game, before we got onto the bus, he called Alan Hudson across, and he called Mick Shannon over, and he told them the tale of what Don Revie had done and said to me, and the pressure he had put me under, and he said, have you ever heard of a fellow called Willie Hall? And we said, no. He said, do you know what the goal-scoring record for England is? We said, no. He said, well, Willie Hall scored 5 against Northern Ireland at Windsor Park back in 1938, I think it was. He said, this man's going to beat it tonight, and we, the 3 of us, are going to make those goals for him. Are you up for it? And they went, yeah, let's go for it. And so we set out, these guys went out on the pitch, setting out to help me score 6. And the first one went in that night, and Alan Ball came running up and he said, that's the first one, you've got 5 more to go. And the second one went in, that's 2, you've got 4 more to go. And Borley counted them down as they were going in. When the third one went in, he came running up and he said, that's your first hat-trick. You're now going for your second hat-trick. Come on. And with about 15 or so minutes to go, Dave Thomas, a northeastern lad, a County Durham lad, he came on. Great crosser of ball, Dave. And Borley knew it. And so Borley just got himself inside right. And he just kept slotting the ball in behind the fullback. And Dave Thomas, he knocked a great cross in, and I got the 4th, and Borley came over. He said, 2 more to go. Again, Dave Thomas knocked another one. In went the 5th, and Borley said, right, come on, just 1 more to go. You've equalled the record. You've made a record at Wembley, but now you need 1 more for the out-and-out record. And as it so happens, I did score another one, but it was disallowed for offside. I hit the post as well. But I'd scored 5. And the final whistle went, and I was at the far end of the tunnel, and they wiped the scoreboard above the tunnel there, and all of a sudden, as I was shaking Cypriot hands, it lit back up again, and it said, Supermac 5, Cyprus 0, congratulations. And I thought, right, yes, at Wembley, and I'd only ever been there as a fan, as a 16-year-old. It was one hell of a moment to appreciate. But then reality struck as I was looking at the board, and I thought, where are you, you bastard? The stress you've put me under. And there he was, with his hands in his Mac, hunched shoulders, creeping around the track. And I said, read that and weep, you bastard. And sure enough, it was the last time I ever played at Wembley. For England, that is.
Having talked about the great moments with Newcastle United, the great scoring moments for the 2 lads, and with England, where there was wonderful, wonderful times, we'll bring it up to date and put a damper on the bloody night by mentioning Mike Ashley in Newcastle United's current situation. He's not here, he can't hear. In fact, if he could hear, he couldn't care bloody less. But there we go. Anyway, enough of that. Up to date, bang up to date. Got to say, 8 matches at the end of last season, Alan. We sat through weeks that become months that must have become years to you afterwards, wondering what was going to happen. The answer was no, because he never sold a thing. What are your recollections on going into the club you loved so much, that spell, and what happened since?
I was called by Lambias and said, would you be interested in taking over for the 8 games? And I needed to sort a few things out. Obviously, I had a contract with the BBC for Match of the Day. So in reality, they could have said, no, you can't do it, you're under contract, but they very kindly let me do it. So I needed to bring my own people in. I think that's a must when you go into management. You get people around you who you know and who you can trust. So I've done that, and I sort of got to one side the people that I felt I needed to, and didn't let them go in the club, because I knew what was going on in the club. because I'd still had a lot of friends and in there, so I knew what was going on. So I agreed everything, went in there, and I have to tell you, I loved every single minute of it. I really did, despite what happened at the end of it. I just loved going in every morning, and you're faced with a different challenge, and I loved it. I really did, despite what the challenges that came along. It was a great experience for me. Come the end of the season, I think bearing in mind that we played Chelsea, we played Liverpool, and we played Spurs. It was probably a 5-game season for me really. So it wasn't enough time. And if I had been asked earlier to go in, then obviously I would have went in a lot earlier, and I felt that I would have done a lot more to have kept us up. But we went down, and come the end of the season, myself and my team were asked to sit down and to put a business plan together, which we did. We gave them a list of players that we felt needed to be sold on, and we felt that players that would come in and get us back up at the first attempt. That was all agreed. My contract was all agreed, and we'd shook hands on it with Mike Ashley, and I've never spoke to the bloke since that day. So it's just a warning for anyone: never ever shake anyone's hand and take it for a deal. So.
He never actually told you weren't going to get it.
No. As far as I was aware, when we got relegated on the Sunday against Aston Villa, we had a meeting on the Tuesday with the guys, and I shook his hand. And as far as I was aware, within 3 or 4 days, I was going to be announced as the manager, and I've never spoke to him since.
He came out with those quotes, didn't he? Like the best signing I've ever made. And
that's what I found hard to believe.
What was all that?
They put the statement out on that Tuesday afternoon and said Alan Shearer was the best thing. We should have appointed him early, and it was the best thing that happened to the football club, and blah 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 blah. And then, what are we? 6 months down the line, or 5 months down the line, nothing's happened, and they've gone on. And I have to say they're doing extremely well, and good luck to them. And then they should, and they probably will. Go up. They've got a small squad, but I think the question that will be asked is once they go up, is any investment going to be made, and does Mike still want to be here? Probably not. Do the people who want him here? Probably not.
But I mean, isn't that for Geordies? Isn't that what we face, Alan? We're all desperate to go. We fear not going up because we don't want to sit in the Championship too long, and we fear even more going up if Ashley ain't going to do anything about it squad-wise when we get up there, because there must be an investment.
There must be an investment, because there was huge problems, and probably still is inside the football club. Yeah. So I got in there, and once the players had gone out training, I went into the first team dressing room, and I'd seen a list of fines for the players, and it was a certain player had walked off training, a certain player had refused to take part in training. A player was late for training, and this was happening every single day, and the fines were £50, £100, £150, and I'm just thinking, come on guys, no wonder you think you're bottom of the league or in the bottom three and in danger of going down. So I introduced a fine system, and bear in mind I'm talking about players here who are on £90,000 a week, so £100 to them fine for being late, they're just going to laugh at you. So I went in and I introduced a fine system that if you're late for anything, then you'll get fined 10% of your wages. I mean, bearing in mind that I wasn't asking too much. I mean, bearing in mind that the players don't have to be in till 10 o'clock in the morning for a 10:30 start, and they're finished at 1 o'clock. So it's not. I don't think it's too much to ask for a player to be in time on training. And the system didn't go down too well, but I have to tell you that once the system had went in, no one was late, so it worked in that respect. So, but. It's a catch-22 situation. We all desperately want us to go back up at the first attempt, but if we do, are we going to be faced with the same problem?
Yeah. Now, we all suspected for a long while that Joey Barton was a slate short of a roof, but when you handled him at Liverpool, what do you think, pal?
I wouldn't change anything. I don't think think he would either. And I think he's since apologised.
You met him since, didn't you?
I met him at the races where, funnily enough, my horse was racing against his, and my horse won and his was third, which was great. But But yeah, I shook his hand, and since then apologised for what had gone on. He agreed he was totally out of order. He shouldn't have done what he did. He cost us the game, and he cost us 3 games at the end of the season for his suspension, which meant a lot. But I think if he's honest and open, then he will tell you he hasn't contributed nowhere near enough to what he should have done to Newcastle United.
Absolutely. I mean, presumably your big hope, like ours, Alan, is that to go up, but then the worry is next summer, isn't it?
Oh, as I said, I'm the same as everyone else. I really, really hope that they go up. Chris is doing a magnificent job under very, very tough circumstances. The players that are there now, the vast majority of them want to be there. And it looks as if they will go up, but then we face another problem.
One last question for you, Alan. Will you manage Newcastle United again?
Well, for you to say that, I would. I think it's probably unfair for me to do that. If given the opportunity now, I would go back into management if everything was right. Not necessarily at Newcastle. If I have to go elsewhere, then I would do that, because, as I said, I love the opportunity. I love football. It's in my blood. I know I sit on the sofa every Saturday on a Saturday night. It's great, and I love doing that. It's very, very easy. But the adrenaline rush, I have to tell you, when you're out there standing on the touchline, is absolutely magnificent, and I loved every bit of it. And if I have my way and everything's right, then I will go into management one day, whether that's here or somewhere else. But I would love to do it. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, my absolute pleasure to see the career at Newcastle United of both these guys, two of the greatest goal scorers we've ever had, and I know you agree that you wouldn't be here in so many numbers tonight. Please put your hands together. Alan Shearer and Supermark.
Okay, Paul, memories about the number 9 shirt first of all. What was it like to pull on the number 9 shirt at Newcastle?
It's everybody's dream. Everybody's dream, especially when you come from Newcastle. Probably what everybody dreams of, and once you've achieved that, it's great. Simple as that.
What was any memorable games that stand out for you?
I suppose the most memorable game was against Leeds United, and that's what everybody talks about. Every time I bump into somebody, they say, "Was that goal you scored against Leeds? Was it a cross?" I say, "No, it should have been, but it wasn't." And that's the one. But I say, I did score a few more than that.
You still follow Newcastle now?
Yes, I do. Still follow them. Sometimes sadly, sometimes always affectionately. But obviously it's my hometown. I always wanted to win. I just always hope that there's better things.
Great night tonight. We enjoyed it.
This just goes without showing. The North East people will back anything that's A, successful, or B, is a good cause. This is a good cause, and you've organised it. It's a tremendous turnout. And the North East people will always support good causes or successful.
Paul, Canal, thanks very much. No problem. What did it mean to you?
Oh, it was fantastic. Once you put that number 9 shirt on, because everybody in Newcastle wanted centre forwards, and they loved to see them scoring goals. And when he went out onto that pitch in the Raw game, it was fantastic. I've never been to a club as big as this. I've played in all over the world for Bolton Wanderers in different clubs, but Newcastle kind of beat them. That's why I stayed here, by the way.
It's happened to a lot of people. Most memorable game that you can think of?
Well, we were joint top with Northampton in the 60s, and we beat them 5-1, and I got a hat-trick, put us top of the league, and that always sticks out in your mind. Plus, I never missed any penalties, by the way.
Newcastle United obviously now top of the championship as this night progresses. What do you make of Newcastle United now in football in general?
Well, if Newcastle at the present moment cannot get out of that division, we are really bad, because it is a bad division and we're in the right position at the right time. And I cannot see them knocking us off all season, I think, but it's certain to go up. But the present day football, we're the laughing stock because of everything that's going on at the club. And if you go back to the Westwoods and that, even the John Olsen, that wouldn't have let things like this happen. It's just that we've been unfortunate that somebody's came in and they know nothing about football. And they thought they'd come in, get a quick kill and get out, and it hasn't happened. And I feel sorry for the fans, actually.
Big night for the NSPCC tonight. Do you enjoy these kind of affairs?
Yes, it's been quite good when you've got a good turnout. And it's a good charity. for children, you cannot give enough money to charities like them. This is what things like the lottery should be looking at things like this to push money into, because there is a lot of this goes on in. It's not only in like Newcastle, it's all over the world, isn't it? And it's a good thing, good charity. And I'm pleased that I'm here tonight.
Ron McGarry, pleasure. Thank you very
No
much.
problem.
Alan Shorter, what was it like to pull on the number 9 at Newcastle United?
That was brilliant. I've waited for that for a long time. I was 25, Steve, when I signed, so I thought my time had gone. When I got the opportunity, I just decided give it a go and make the most of it, you know what I mean? That meant, like I said, I was late coming in, so like, take it or leave it, I was there. Brilliant.
Memorable game, most memorable match that you can remember playing for?
Well, there's a couple. I mean, my first goal at home was against Burnley. That was one of that was my third game. I think it was. I scored away from home, but my third game, I scored my first home goal in front of the fans. It was like, you know, the best feeling I'd ever had. I mean, you get married and nice friends and children born and all that. This is different, you know. 30,000 Geordies screaming and shouting. And, yeah, I'd only been there 3 weeks, so my life had changed around altogether. But that's when it hit home that I was like playing real professional football. The second one, Sunderland at home, New Year's Day, 37,000 drunken Geordies, and we managed to beat them 3-1. That was like, for my family, I've got 2 brothers, black and white, before I'd signed for them. So it was a bonus for them when I was playing for them. But I managed to score a penalty, so to score against them as well as beat them was like, it couldn't get any better. Plus the fact, we had the day off the next day, so there was a bit of a drink on the night, Steve.
You came back and you played against Newcastle in Newcastle's promotion season in 83, 84. What was that like to just be on the pitch,
well,
Kevin Keegan and the lads?
Yeah, it was like strange for me. I played against them twice actually. The first time we drew 2-8 and I scored, so didn't know what reaction I was going to get off the supporters, because they'd been really good to me with this bit of local. And I managed to score like an equalising goal, and it was like, do I celebrate? Do I not? Or what do I do? So it was just a little hand up and like a run away about half. But I didn't get any stick over it, you know. We ended up drawing 2-8. The next year, when they got promoted, that's the one you're on about. We got beat 5-0. We 2-0 down, we got a penalty. Kevin Carr was in goal and I scored hundreds against him in training cars. And he stood there and I just slammed it down the middle. I thought, he knows where I'm going to put it. I usually put it in the bottom right. And I thought, he's down there. And he just stood up and he hit him straight in the head. And Kevin Keegan scored at the other end of this save. Went right down, we made it 3-0. Bob Stoker, the manager, wasn't very happy at all. But that was a bit of a low point to me. But I was pleased he got promoted that year.
Yeah, that memorable game with Blythe Spartans at St James's Park as well. Tell us about that.
Well, that was my first taste of like big time, if you like. You know, as a non-league player, the most I played for was 9,000. That was against Preston at Bishop Auckland. So I'm 24-year-old and coming in at 42,000, 12,000 locked down. You know, we couldn't have even dreamed of that. Man, we didn't see much of the money, but the atmosphere was fantastic. We lost, but you know, it was just the experience of it all. And to be fair, we all wanted a bit more of that type of atmosphere, and I was like looking to make the breakthrough and get a bit more.
Getting up tonight, you know, a table full of number 9s, led by Alan Shearer and Malcolm MacDonald. What do you think about tonight as a whole and the NSPCC as a charity?
Well, if I could pick a charity like this one, the Imperial, it would be that one. I mean, I think that's the thing, we should be looking after our own in this country, especially the vulnerable children. To be on the same table as them, I don't think I should have been, but I'm thank you for that. But, you know, Malcolm MacDonald, he was the hero of my brothers. They were the staunch Newcastle fans, and you can't go past Malcolm MacDonald. The one near Alan, you can't go past his record the way he played. And to be honest, I don't think I would be able to separate the two as who was the best. I wouldn't be able to. I think they both true legends of the number 9 shirt, without a doubt. Jackie Milburn, another strong player, obviously, but I think them will be up there with Jackie. Obviously, it was a gorgeous card. But Malcolm was hero worship in my
Alan Schuler, thank you very much.
honesty.
Fantastic.
Thanks for the night.
Brilliant. No, brilliant. Right, it's a couple of simple questions. This is basically just about the number 9 shirt. Classic. Okay, we've got Big Bill, a little Bill here, Billy Whitehurst and Billy Askew. Billy Whitehurst, the number 9 shirt, pulling it on at Newcastle United, what did it mean to you?
Everything. The trouble was, when I pulled it on, when I was coming up on the way up from Doncaster, I was thinking about it and you shit me, straight up. Too many good players have played in that shirt and I couldn't cope. Is that bad?
No, of course it's not. Of course it's not. You played at St James's Park. What was the atmosphere like when you first pulled the number 9 shirt on? Did you feel the pressure? Was it good? Did you enjoy it?
It's like going out there then, just like, I don't know, I've never been out in Wembley when they've got final, but it was like unreal, fabulous. Fabulous.
Billy, Newcastle United, for you, as a memory, what was it like pulling on the
Well,
black
for me, it was unbelievable. I was a Newcastle fan from tier 1, from I think 6 years of age. I probably got me dream at about 31. I played. Well, I put a bit of weight on by then. But to be honest, Stevie, Newcastle United was everything to me. It still is. Absolute. It's my life. I got the dream, and
You lived the dream.
I lived the dream. I can tell you a story when my mother, my father, honest to God, they were in the car when I pulled up at St James's Park for his debut, home debut, and playing Brighton, I think it was. We won. I got man of the match, and for me, that was just everything. For the simple reason is just because I could have said for Man U, Liverpool, it was Newcastle I wanted to play for. It came probably a little bit too late for us to be honest, but it was my dream.
What about nights like
Absolute
this?
dream.
Nights like this tonight. You know, I mean, it's a night for the NSPCC, big charity. What does it mean just to get back with you old professionals? You're seeing Billy tonight, getting on the table with Alan Shoulder, Imre Everardi, people who've played the game like yourselves. What's it like to get together for a charity?
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And like, to be fair, Alan Shearer, Malcolm McDonald, legends. But not a lot of people know how much they put into everything else. You know, like, I don't know, charities and what have you. We don't put so much into it, but we come here. I've come from Doncaster, 200 miles. You try. I'm pissed as rat, by the way.
Yeah. I know that, mate. But you're a good lad, and I love you. That'll do me,
I
lads.
apologise.
Billy, that was the best interview I've ever done. You know why? Because it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Imre Everardi, what was it like playing at Newcastle United as a number 9?
It was amazing. Since many years ago, but I really enjoyed myself. I was there from 81 to 83. And I managed to score 42 goals in 89, 90 games, so I'm really proud of that.
You were a cult hero, really. I mean, I remember as a supporter coming along and, you know, supporting Varane, and then the Keegan Revolution, the first Keegan Revolution started, and you were deemed surplus to requirements by Arthur Cox, and you left the club. Is there any regrets?
Oh yeah, there was a time because I didn't want to leave the club. I loved the club. I was settled. I had a couple more years left on my contract. I actually had one season with Kevin Keegan, which I enjoyed. Unfortunately, you know, they showed me the door, and I moved to Sheffield Wednesday, and I furthered my career there. But I loved it here at North East. I loved playing for Newcastle.
Favourite games in the black and white shirt that you can remember? Anything that stands out?
What I can remember was that crowd, that famous crowd at
at Newcastle, the atmosphere, scoring in front of the supporters was superb, and I managed to score a couple of hat-tricks as well, so I'm very proud of it, and I still look back with fond memories.
Nights like this, you came to the very first black and white reunion with the 83-84 promotion team, which was great. But a night like tonight where you're sitting with Alan Shearer, Malcolm MacDonald, people who are held in high esteem up here, as you are yourself still to this very day. But what's it like coming back and support a charity like the NSPCC? Do you enjoy these kind of nights?
I do. I enjoy it because you're with regular people. We're all from that. I know nowadays footballers are sort of in high esteem with these supporters, but it's best to get back down onto their level, and it just shows you that we're all normal people. We want to help and support charities, and it's a great evening. I enjoy things like this.
You're an agent now, Newcastle United. You still get to a few of the games. What do you make of Newcastle United's current predicament?
Well, we all know it's a roller coaster, isn't it? And that's how it's been for the last few years. But they're doing very well. Obviously, they're sat on top of the division. They've got a great chance of promotion, and they just need that investment, don't they? And get the supporters behind the club, and I think it's more the chair behind the scenes there.
Brilliant. One more last question. Would you like to have played? You played your career in the 80s, 90s. Would you like to have played in the modern day where the money's so different? You're an agent now. You know what these players are getting paid.
That's right.
Would you like to have played in the modern era?
I don't look at it like that. I had my day and I enjoyed it. And I've got obviously a new career now. I've been an agent for the last 10 years, and I enjoyed that. And I'm heavily involved in football. So saying that, I suppose yes, because I would have been sat on the beach by now. But I enjoy looking after managing the players now and being involved in the game.
Imre Brody, thank you very much. What's it like pulling on the number 9 shirt at Newcastle, man?
It was always very, very special. And not only did the manager make it special, Joe Harvey, bless him, when I was there, but it was when you just got to the mouth of the tunnel, and the roar was quite incredible. When you have to remember that I came from Luton Town, and we'd average sort of 12 to 14,000 on a good day. But to come to a ground that probably made the most noise of any ground in the country, it gave you the feeling that once you got out onto the green turf, that if you didn't want to play there, you didn't want to play football anywhere.
Most memorable game?
I think the most memorable game, probably not. It's got to be the Liverpool game, I think, the home debut. Although I had to be told about it afterwards, because having scored a hat-trick, Ray Clemens then came and booted me in the side of the face and knocked me out, and I was sort of dragged off the pitch in a semi-conscious state, and fully went unconscious in the treatment room. And I had a habit. Most people get really nervous before a game, but I didn't, and I could quite easily go into the treatment room. If there was a spare treatment couch, I would just lie on it and go to sleep. And I'd done that before the Liverpool game, and I'd had sort of 40 winks, and somebody had woke me up and said, "Come on, off we go." And I'd gone out, and I woke up on the couch, and I wasn't sure if it had all been a dream that had happened. And it was Frank Clark that woke me up. And I said, "I've just had this strangest dream." He said, "No, you haven't." He said, "Go and have a look in the mirror." He said, "You've got all the stitches in your mouth from being knocked out." He said, "It was real. You scored a hat-trick, mate. Well done." It was quite a beginning, but I think the most amazing thing that actually happened in that was my first goal was from the penalty spot, but then the second goal, Terry Hemmington took a great little ball in, and I was able to spin, turn, and go round Tommy. It was either Tommy Smith or Larry Lloyd, and I just hit the cross shot, and it went into the far top corner, the other side of Ray Clemens, and there was like a few seconds silence. And I went, "Did he really smack the one in the net like that?" Well, and then all of a sudden the roar went up, and as we were going back, all the players towards the centre circle, all of a sudden, it was as if they had handed out song sheets, and everybody started chanting, singing this song, with the words changed from the hit musical Jesus Christ Superstar down in London. And they were singing Supermax Superstar. How many goals have you scored so far? I tell you what, I thought that is unbelievable. And that was my real first experience of the quick thinking mentality and the humour of the Geordie public.
Nights like this, Malcolm, you've been to plenty. Does this rank up there with some of the best nights sitting on the top table with Alan Shearer and the rest of the boys who pulled that number 9 shirt?
It's quite special because it's sort of all the generations going from before me, going way back into the 60s. There's a lot of goals up there. There's a huge amount of goals. We're all very different players. You know, there's no clones whatsoever. But I think also that if you look along that line, that we all went out and did it in our own particular way. You know, that we weren't subservient to how the coaches told us. We went out and had a bit of individual flair about us, and I think that really is what Newcastle's about, allowing individuals to show their flair.
All for a good cause as well.
Oh, absolutely. Oh well, and tonight, of course, yes, is an absolutely brilliant cause, I have to say. I've had associations with it over the past years, and it's a great charity. They do great work.
Malcolm MacDonald, thanks very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.